Revelation.
It's still having that same problem. It doesn't start until I start. Hey, everyone, welcome to today's episode. We'll see if we can't get through it without any interference here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm having problems every time I start the stream. Before I start the stream, it's going fine, and then as soon as I hit record, it starts getting all choppy. I don't know what the deal is, but gonna have to fix it with a new laptop or something. Hey, so I just want to start by saying I'm sorry about the inconsistency this week. I got so much shit going on. I can't even wrap my head around it. It's like I'm being pulled in 9 different directions. But for consistency's sake, I want to keep doing the episodes, the podcast. Let's see if I'm getting the feed. Still no feed, so. And I'm plagued with technical difficulties here. Which is making it even more frustrating because I don't have time to deal with this. With the hang-ups here, every time I try to go streaming, I tried something yesterday. It actually made the problem worse. So I was in touch with OBS and some other tech people trying to get. They said, "Oh, we'll upload the software. It's going to help with streaming." And with video, and that's basically what it's supposed to happen. But the software wouldn't load, and all the versions they kept sending me, none of them would work, and I couldn't load them, and it was supposed to alleviate this problem of this stuttering. It's still not happening, so a lot of it has to do with my laptop. So the feed is frozen again, so I don't know if it's, you guys are watching, if it's frozen on your end. But let's go ahead and get through the news for today, which is August 15th. It's the middle of August. And got another month of summer. And I'm probably going to get away towards the end of the month for at least a few days. But this has been a hectic month so far. So let's get to the news for today, August 15th. So yesterday, I didn't even load the episode. I mean, the audio was fine. But I think it was, what went up on Rumble yesterday was shorter than the actual episode even was, so I don't know what parts were clipped out, and the video kept hanging up, and I'm looking at my feed now and it's hung up, so hopefully we'll be able to get through today without any problems. So I might truncate it a little bit and not mince words so much. So let's get to the first story. Washington Times, Trump, new docs show absolute proof of guilt for Clapper, Comey in creating Russia collusion hoax. And this is because, as One America News reports, Gabbard presents declassified emails showing former DNI Clapper's specific role in Russiagate hoax. If you get down in the story, it says that Clapper's email chain, pick something. We'll just go to this. Clapper's email chain, where he was talking with NSA Director Mike Rogers, James Comey, and John Brennan. Rogers, who was the NSA official, said that they were wrong. So this is part of what is considered the ISA, which is the intelligence briefing. But the NSA director, Mike Rogers, highlighted that his team lacked sufficient access to the underlying intelligence and had insufficient time to thoroughly review it. So making them uncomfortable endorsing the assessment's unverified conclusion. And this is the new ISA when they mere hours before the ISA authors plan to deliver the first draft to intelligence community leaders. That's Brennan and Clapper and all these guys. But Clapper wrote back that asking for more time was not negotiable. So they rushed through this report in an effort to smear the president with no underlying intelligence. National Review, Muriel Bowser, who's the mayor of D.C., skips town amid Trump's D.C. takeover. It's bad timing, the author of the National Review article, Audrey Fahlberg, says days after President Donald Trump announces federal takeover of the nation's capital earlier in the week, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has left town for Martha's Vineyard. Even if the trip is for a family commitment, as her team alleges, it's rough to imagine that this news will play well with D.C.'s ultra-democratic constituency. And what it is, a family commitment, because her and her family are going vacation in the vineyard. It is the middle of August, by the way. Not like she's going there for a funeral. They say the mayor has a family commitment and had to pick up her daughter. She will return to the district tomorrow. She has to pick up her daughter in Martha's Vineyard. How old is her daughter? Can her daughter come home on her own? Well, I mean, this is just ridiculous. And we saw the same thing with the fires burning down LA when Mayor Karen Bass there was in Africa. A lot of what's happening with DC is the fact that, and we highlighted this yesterday, or even the day before yesterday, when we talked about the governor of New Mexico declaring a state of emergency for a crime-ridden county in her state. And this directly illustrates what Fox News says. DC's soft on crime leaders let teens run wild, open door for Trump takeover, a police group says. President Trump invokes emergency powers for 30 days after attacks on Doge staffer and congressional team. And so you're going to see in the next article by the New York Times that they're trying to illustrate that because one lawyer says that Trump doesn't have legal grounds to do so, that doesn't make it so. The District of Columbia is a federal district. So the commander-in-chief, the head of the federal government, is Donald Trump. So he is in the chain of command. He was democratically elected. He's not a manager or some sort of other appointed person. He's a duly elected official, president of the United States, asserting federal powers over this federal district, Washington, D.C., and yes, usurping the elected mayor there, Muriel Bowser. So let's get to that article from the New York Times, but I just wanted to show these stats from the Fox News article. In 2024, juveniles made up 51.8% of robbery arrests, according to police, adding that almost 60% of carjacking suspects in 2025 are also juveniles. In Washington, D.C., most violent crimes committed by adults are prosecuted by the United States Attorney's Office, while most juvenile crimes are prosecuted by the District of Columbia's Attorney General. The next article is from the New York Times, as I mentioned. Attorney General Pam Bondi, and as you saw earlier, is that the United States Attorney's Office, that is led by the Attorney General. Bondi tightens Trump administration's grip on D.C. police. The Attorney General cleared the way for the police to aid in immigration enforcement and named an emergency commissioner, setting the stage for a conflict with local authorities. Well, there is a conflict. And that's why Muriel Bowser fled, because she really can't contest, because they know the law. The law is that Trump has, or the administration, the federal government has jurisdiction in New York, in Washington, D.C. A two-page order from Ms. Bondi declared that Terry Cole, the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, who had already been overseeing the federal takeover of the city's police department, was now the emergency police commissioner with all powers and duties invested in the city's police chief, Pamela A. Smith, because they're not fighting crime. So the lawyer, the Democratic lawyer, Mr. Schwab, said that the 1973 Home Rule Act, which granted Washington its limited self-government, look at those words there, limited self-government, gave the president the authority to direct the mayor to provide the president with police department services to address an emergency. The law does not give the president the authority, the letter said, this is quoting Schwab's letter, to alter the chain of command, to rescind or suspend orders, or to otherwise determine how the district pursues purely local law enforcement. They're derelict in their duty. So if you have a chain of command, let's say, and that the highest in the chain of command, in this instance, the president, needs to usurp lower chain of command, it's usually done so if there's proven dereliction of duty. So if the streets aren't safe, then the mayor, and that's why she left town more than likely, the mayor would be responsible. And so what they're doing is they're usurping her chain of command because the police chief, the mayor, are derelict in their duty, and it's providing safety for the residents of Washington, D.C. and visitors as well. Next article up is from PJ Media. CNN admits that Americans vastly prefer Trump's approach to crime. Indeed. I'd just like to add that Republicans usually do better as far as law and order is concerned. And what happens is once law and order is restored, then Democrats want their progressive policies to be put in, which actually raises crime. And then people call for conservatives to come back and establish law and order again. So there's this ongoing cycle. Like I talked about yesterday a little bit, like I'm a libertarian, so I'm not big on obeying the law, but then change the law. Like I said, if it's speeding or smoking outside if you're not allowed to, or doing something, that has no, committing an illicit act that has no victim, whatever. The problem is that it's broken windows. If you police the small stuff, everything tends to fall in line. Because if you don't police the small stuff, you get lackadaisical, then the people feel that there's no consequence to illicit actions. And that just has to be dealt with. Broken windows. So if there's graffiti, you take it down. As soon as it goes up, you take it down. If there are people doing illicit things, petty street crime, you have to police all that. Is there a correlation between that and higher crime? We don't know. Data doesn't prove it out. Doesn't matter. Quality of life issues. That's why in my city, it's the same thing. It's like these people are breaking local ordinance, make them stop. The police are like, well, your job is law enforcement. Your job isn't making excuses for people that break the law. In any case. So if you didn't hear this, Just the News is reporting Scott Bessent makes unexpected visit to IRS with Biden admin whistleblowers. If you don't know what's going on there, what is happening is so Scott Bessent fired IRS, well, President Trump did, fired IRS Commissioner Billy Long. And since the IRS kind of falls under the Treasury Department, Scott Bessent assumed leadership of the IRS. So he just visited the IRS, and he went there with IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler, and these are the guys that dropped dime on Hunter Biden, and not only dropped dime on Hunter Biden, but they also testified that there was a cover-up regarding Hunter Biden's crimes. The visit comes just 6 days after President Donald Trump removed former IRS Commissioner Billy Long amid a shakeup at the government agency, and just 2 months after he was confirmed to the position. Bessent said the visit today is to establish a new command and control at the IRS now that Billy Long has left, and to signal that the Treasury Department or the Treasury Secretary intends to have Gary and Joe play a major role in running the department until a new chief has been chosen and confirmed. Shapley and Ziegler are known for making protected whistleblower disclosures to Congress about political interference, potential conflicts of interest, and preferential treatment in the tax investigation related to former first son Hunter Biden. Duh. The problem with me is sometimes when you read the news and you're looking at mainstream news outlets and how they report the news, or talking heads of how they report the news and so forth and so on, it's very disturbing because you're looking, you're like, are they that detached from reality? I mean, there's rampant crime and corruption, and the mainstream media doesn't even report on it as such. Oh, Donald Trump is claiming that. I mean, we knew this back in 2016, that there was an ongoing illegal investigation of Donald Trump's campaign and then as president by the deep state bureaucrats in the establishment, liberal establishment in government, trying to take down a duly elected president with scant evidence. The evidence wasn't even strong enough to initiate an investigation, but they used it anyway, and then they prolonged it by regurgitating the same information. More headlines from the Wall Street Journal. Why haven't tariffs boosted inflation? Because they don't. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So there we go. My scene switcher isn't working either. I don't know what's going on. I just have to get a new. Sorry, folks. I can't. You know, I was going on a shoestring of memory, and I think I loaded a bunch of work that I have to do on here, and it's complicating things. So if you're out there, stick with me. We're almost done. Why haven't tariffs boosted inflation? This theory is gaining traction. The theory is a stupid. They're trying to make sense of it and inventing other theories. Here's the theory, and it's not a theory, it's a fact. Tariffs don't cause inflation. They can, depending on the sector tariffed, the sector that is taxed, can increase supply chain prices, which may trickle to consumers, but that's not inflation. Inflation is broad-based price increases based on the devaluing of the currency. New research suggests that actual tariff rates are well below what economists have suspected. No, they're not. People just kept saying tariffs are going to cause inflation. Tariffs are going to cause inflation. And just because they said it, they thought it was going to happen. It doesn't happen because tariffs don't cause inflation. I mentioned it can raise prices, but there are a lot of extenuating factors. Post-millennial ICE arrests illegal immigrant outside Gavin Newsom LA rally. Breaking the law is not coincidental. Breaking the law is breaking the law. Because Gavin Newsom said, oh, there's no coincidence that these people are here during our rally. And they arrested an illegal immigrant. So wherever there are illegal immigrants, they just made a point. I mean, obviously it was a bit of a stunt, but they're just making a point. Wherever there are illegal immigrants, they're going to go arrest them. One illegal immigrant was detained outside the Democracy Center at the Japanese American National Museum in downtown Los Angeles, where Governor Gavin Newsom announced California's plan for redistricting efforts. Good luck with that. Footage showed Border Patrol agents taking a man away in handcuffs. Border Patrol has conducted immigration patrols in the area and took one person into custody. Of course they did. One American News, Christine Noem says 1.6 million illegal immigrants have left the U.S. so far this year. There is some dispute on that number, but it seems that the immigration enforcement has forced people to leave the country on their own volition. Some taking advantage of the administration's offer. I think it was $5,000 or $1,000 or whatever, and free plane tickets and whatever. And so some people took advantage of that. Some people just left. But there's also, it also may be that respondents to the survey aren't disclosing their illegal status. Noem's claim is based on a report from the Center for Immigration Studies, which gave a preliminary estimate that the number of illegal immigrants has fallen by 1.6 million in the past 6 months. Also, Immigration Zero Hedge, knife crime in Germany surges with foreigners heavily overrepresented in the latest figures. Then the figures where the data was provided to the German government in response to the parliamentary query from AfD Domestic Affairs spokesman Martin Hess. Out of the recorded offensive, 278 involved German suspects and 270 involved non-Germans, so a little less than half. While foreigners make up just 15% of Germany's population, they accounted for 36% of knife crime suspects, of course. It's just a minority sometimes commit majority or at least half of, because what they are is they're a minority. They have a chip on their shoulder for being a minority. Maybe hiring practices don't favor minorities enough and they feel disenfranchised and then commit crimes. Among them, Syrians, of course they did, formed the largest group with 29 cases, followed by Afghans with 23 cases, so Muslims, and Poles with 20. Luke Rundowski, 20 Poles committed knife crimes in Germany last year. Algerian and Afghan suspects were among the most likely to use a knife rather than merely carry one, with 83% of cases involving actual. Another Zero Hedge article. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Roblox. Roblox's child predator problem just got weirder. So Roblox is like a Sims kind of game for children. And it's replete with child predators, sex offenders, and anywhere you go online, you're gonna be facing I don't want to say sock puppets, but people posing as other people to elicit either information for blackmail or whatever, or to prey on children sexually. The horrific example of XYZ Public Bathroom Simulator, a game where it is commonplace to see naked avatars, predators showering with children. Yeah, so this guy, what's his name? Andrew Schlepp. He's a young man who is trying to infiltrate Roblox. Roblox has tripled down on their latest newsroom post, outrageously comparing me to actual predators because my decoys tell adults that they're children. So it's like the entrapment thing is And is it entrapment? But the sting is, if you're going after child sex predators, you pose as children, you communicate with them online, you lure them out, and then the police jump out and grab them. Sick, sick, sick. I mean, it's just the law. It's, if you have a proclivity, it doesn't mean you have to carry it out. Certainly. Because any exploitation of children sexually is bad. I don't care if you think it's okay or you don't think it's okay, it's bad because you're taking advantage of children. So, especially sexually is even worse because it can cause trauma, lifelong trauma. And that's the whole thing I said yesterday about trauma-based mind control. The Catholic Church did it. Lots of people do it. You abuse children, causes them to have a schism, psychological schism, and then those compartmentalized identities, dissociative identity disorder or DID, and then you can control those multiple personalities or some of the multiple personalities to do sometimes unspeakable thing that the actual person would never acquiesce to. Okay. Post-millennial breaking, Portland Antifa member Isabel Arujo sentenced to 1 day of community service threatens journalists outside the courthouse. So this person was arrested and convicted of charging at and spraying mace in the face of somebody who was burning a Quran. This isn't a Muslim country. You can burn books here. You can even burn the American flag. So anything you do, as it's free speech, let's say, if you want to burn a Quran, anything you do that's in free speech, even if you dead name or misgender somebody, anything you say or do in the realm of free speech never warrants violence. So I don't care if someone says something that you don't like, you can't punch them in the face or you can't do this. And in Portland, the courts there decide, a slap on the wrist for this person that considers themselves Antifa soldier. You know, and what happens when this person gets out of court? Fuck Israel. She says, she yells six times. Fuck you. You are a propagandist for Andy No. And Andy No was brain damaged after an attack by Antifa. They threw an ice bottle, a bottle with ice in it, at the back of his head. Because they know who he is, because he used to write in the Quillette. Now I think he writes Post-Millennial or somewhere else. But he constantly reports on Antifa because for what they are. And so that's free speech, and so he gets attacked for it. Were those people ever found and convicted? All these people, and especially if you walk out of court and you say, fuck you, you're a propagandist for Andy No, a fucking Nazi, a Zionist Nazi. Talk about fucking a Zionist Nazi. Is there such a thing? An Israeli bootlicking Nazi. He told her to kill herself before being led away by his lawyer. Anger issues, for sure. These people are just fucked. Speaking of fuck, New York Post, Alex Jones InfoWars assets to be sold to pay over $1 billion in debt to Sandy Hook families. Well, the New York Post is no fan of Alex Jones. Oh, I thought I had text here. So we all know about Alex Jones. He didn't do anything. He didn't kill the kids in Sandy Hook. He reported on it with suspicion, as we all had suspicion as it was unfolding. I was actually there as the story was unfolding, and nothing seemed to make sense. So, and continually with these mass shootings, nothing seems to make sense. Now, was there a mass shooting? As far as Sandy Hook is concerned, we never saw any evidence that there was a mass shooting. I read the FBI report. Right? There were no pictures of the classroom showing bullet holes all over the place. Nope. No blood-stained floor in the school. Nothing to me suggests that that autistic kid shot up a school for apparently no reason. Because he was autistic? Is that the reason? We don't have any reason. Any case, Alex Jones reported on it, as many of us did, and obviously had concerns about what happened there. And so what? Defamation? So if you're defamed in a defamation case, you're supposed to illustrate how the defamation cost you money. So nobody was defamed to the point where they couldn't make $1 billion or hundreds of millions of dollars. Who was making hundreds of millions of dollars? And who was defamed to the point where they lost hundreds of millions of dollars? Nobody. This is a ridiculous judgment. And so he has to sell InfoWars assets, and they're going to take over the studio. And, you know, he's been dealing with this for years. And of course, when the Onion tried to buy it last year, it was a rigged auction, and the judge even found it to be so. This whole thing stinks to high heaven. I don't understand why the judicial system doesn't take a greater look at this and go, hey, there's something wrong here. How did somebody who's exercising free speech get penalized in a civil action for $1 billion? How? Millions of dollars, okay, maybe. $1 billion, really? I mean, it's ridiculous. The judgment is ridiculous. And now they're going to take over InfoWars and sell it. Well, they're not going to make $1 billion. They just want to get them off the air. That's the whole point of the Onion coming in and wanting to buy it. They're going to say, oh, we're going to make it a satirical site. To a certain degree. They're not going to put a lot of money in it. They're just going to take the InfoWars name and then make a parody of InfoWars and, you know, flat earth nonsense, all that stuff. But you know, Sandy Hook, right? Sandy Hook, we don't know. We don't know anything about Sandy Hook. What I do know is a lot of evidence suggests that it wasn't Adam Lanza who killed anybody. Were people killed? Maybe, probably. But it was unlikely it was Adam Lanza. And there's so many things wrong with the case. The main point being is the assistant medical examiner under Carver, who's now dead, if you didn't know. Oh, heart attack. His assistant medical examiner invited her husband to come look at the body of Adam Lanza. Why would they do that? The husband then took pictures of the body of supposedly Adam Lanza. Why would he do such a thing? It's just gore. He's going to release him to the Inquirer. What? That's what they make you to believe. But Carver said something very interesting when he was at the press conference right after Sandy Hook in his lab coat, which was ridiculous. And he said, we have very good photographers. And that's what was being meant, is that Carver and the medical examiner staff was trying to get photographic evidence to keep the beasts at bay. And it didn't work because the assistant medical examiner was arrested along with her husband. The photos were confiscated. And then Carver, 8 months later, ends up dead. So if Carver had really good photographers, they should have made copies of those photos, which led me to believe that the body wasn't Adam Lanza. Who knows if Adam Lanza ever existed, or he might have died years before. We don't know. People, witnesses hadn't seen Adam Lanza in almost 2 years. So we don't know. All right, enough about Sandy Hook. My speculation is is that it wasn't Adam Lanza. If his body was dragged into the school, perhaps, maybe he wasn't even alive at the time. Maybe he thought he was part of an operation, but that his house was visited with nasty assets, mechanics that killed his mother, took him to the school, killed the kids or killed whoever was killed at Sandy Hook School, did the shooting, killed him, left him there, and escaped out the back door, where they were found in the woods by local police. 2 men running away from the school. One was captured. Not captured, not overtaken, but he turned around and gave up. While the other man, the other individual seen by helicopter video, kept running. And that man was never addressed in any sort of police report. All right, enough about Sandy Hook. Federalist. Americans who learned to code at Obama's behest can't find jobs now. Remember that? You might not remember it when Obama was elected and he gutted manufacturing. What did he tell the manufacturers who were out of work? He said, learn to code, which at the time was thought to be an insult. But many recent graduates today who major in computer science are struggling to find employment, according to a report by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And I also know several young people, same thing. Those with degrees in computer science and computer engineering face unemployment rates at 6.1% and 7.5%, which is higher than the national average of all employment. Figures that are more than double the rate seen among recent graduates in fields that are like art history, 3%, ethnic studies, 2.6%. Furthermore, CS and CE rank as the 3rd and 8th worst majors for unemployment out of the 70-plus majors the report tracked. Thanks, Obama. Yeah, you know why? Because AI codes. Why do you need to pay people who went through 4 years of college that need to make a decent salary to pay off their loan? Why do you need to pay them? Because AI can do it, and AI works around the clock. They don't take breaks. They don't take vacation. They don't need health care. They don't need to get paid. AI is to displace human employment. That's the purpose. The other major purpose, of course, is sifting through reams of surveillance to flag things and to analyze surveillance data. BBC AI designs antibiotics for gonorrhea and MRSA superbugs. So if you didn't know what MRSA, it's bacteria. It's antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So they've gone to a bunch of different lengths to eliminate these bacteria, but they're out there. In my speculation, very likely created in a lab, superbugs, because once CRISPR came online, all these new things started popping up. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria, new pathogens here, new molds, new thing is like coming out of the woodwork. All of a sudden, it was novel bacteria, novel virus, novel mold. Molds, which is fungus. So AI probably designs pathogens as much as it designs the antibiotics to fight the pathogen. Wall Street Journal, what Musk, Altman, and others, tech overlords say about AI-funded universal basic income, UBI, which is the reason they invented UBI is because they know that artificial intelligence will replace all human labor. And so what are they going to do with all the people that are out of work, no way to make a living? You're going to have, they know you're going to have universal basic income. And universal because it's going to be worldwide. So it's not going to be an isolated market in the United States or China. It's all over. Humans won't have anything to do to get financial compensation for. Silicon Valley's latest buzzword envisions a future in which AI generates a surge of new wealth shared among the masses. How does AI generate wealth? Doesn't. So the way you generate wealth is if you're not into fractional reserve banking, the way you generate wealth is you monetize something. A skill that you have, your labor, in other words, or you monetize, not capitalize, you monetize innovation. So you invent something new. It's the capitalists, the bankers that capitalize on your monetized innovation. So they see if you invent a widget and they see that your widget is trending in popularity, then they invest in it to capitalize on your innovation, your monetization of that innovation, and the market need for that. So how AI is going to generate wealth, what's it going to innovate? Is it going to develop a new raincoat? I mean, none of this makes sense. And we're being lied to about everything, about tariffs, about AI, about robots, how soon they are away. They're not far away. Wall Street Journal, China hosts world's first games for humanoid robots. The 3-long-day event showcases more than 500 robots from around the world, which will compete in sports, including soccer and boxing. Like I said, as soon as a humanoid robot could wire a house for electricity or do plumbing or whatever, we're done. Zero Hedge is reporting, visualizing the world's AI compute hubs. So if you don't know what this is, who's involved in AI? Well, everybody. Mostly the US and China, and that's for defense purposes. But there's a graph here, or a graphic. US has 26 AI compute hubs, which are supercomputing facilities that have the electricity to power. China and Hong Kong have 24, Germany has 7, Singapore has 6, India has 5, UK has 5, France has 5, so it's developed world. Canada 5, Australia 4, Ireland 3, Israel 2, Brazil 2, Switzerland 2, South Africa 4, Japan 4, South Korea 4, Italy 4. So all the developed nations all have AI hubs. Why is that? That's because it's in the developed world where you're going to see AI displace white collar. That's where most of the white collar jobs are, because it'll displace white collar jobs first and then go after, once you have the humanoid robot, you can replace human labor, carrying sacks of flour or whatever, with robots as well. Is that it?